a seat if they're playing quarterback musical chairs. So, and there's plenty of time for all those. Now, if everyone's all set at quarterback, then it's a different story. But even then, you might think you're set at quarterback, and then you have a chance to get Deshaun Watson. Then you're not so set at quarterback anymore because he is most likely a huge upgrade over anyone you have. The idea that the Texans are being intractable and they don't want to trade him, I believe they have to front right now because they're probably not getting offers commensurate with what he's worth. They saw Matt Stafford. The Lions took Matt Stafford, traded him for Jared Goff, and 2 firsts and a third. So I'll bet right now they're saying the bidding starts at 3 firsts. And maybe they're not hearing what they want, but Stephen A., eventually they're not going to be able to say no to the haul that they can get for Deshaun.
Max, if we had to bet our money, we're on the same page in terms of the likelihood that Deshaun Watson will be moved because we can't believe the Texans would be that stupid not to move a guy that is defiant, that clearly wants out. And they can take the intractable position all they want to. It's not going to work to their benefit. But when the question is asked, should I be worried? I'm going to say yes, Max, and here's why. Think about this here. You have this guy, Jamie Roots, who was the president. He has now resigned. Max Kellerman, if you look at this guy's bio, do you know where he went to school? Clemson.
I don't know offhand.
He went to Clemson. Clemson University, Max. So you would think, considering where Deshaun Watson came from, what he did for that institution, how beloved he is by that institution, and Dabo Swinney and all of that, somebody would have went to Jamie Root and said, you know, what the hell's going on here? Are you not taking care of our boy? With him being gone, clearly we've got a situation where something has gone awry, and the McNair family doesn't appear to give a damn, all right? And so when you look at it from that perspective, is it beyond the pale to imagine an organization being so truculent, particularly with a black athlete who happens to be quarterback, who was so thankful in his tearful gratitude towards them for giving them the huge amount of money, living in a day and age where you still have people saying, shut up and ball, you know, whether it's shut up and dribble literally or metaphorically or figuratively speaking, just basically shut up and ball. When you live in an age like that, and it comes from a family whose dad or husband, because Janice McNair is, you know, she's now considered the owner of the franchise. Cal McNair is the president, CEO rather. The bottom line is this. The father, McNair, God rest his soul, passed away in 2018, if I remember correctly. He was the one that was talking about can't let the inmates run the prison. Those were his words, okay? And it really offended the DeAndre Hopkins of the world and others. DeAndre Hopkins ends up gone. Deshaun Watson doesn't even know about it. This is an organization that appears to not give a damn. And as a result, can I imagine them drawing a line in the sand and trying to be hardcore and potentially willing to sabotage their own selves just to make the point that you won't bully us into making any moves? We'll do it when we're good and damn ready, if we choose to do so at all. Do I see something like that as a possibility? Yeah, I do. Because a lot of times with people in positions of power, they are willing to cut off their nose to spite their face, just to display the level of control that they have and want to have over you, which, as I told you and many others before, which is one of the reasons why you had people in the streets protesting. It wasn't just because it was a knee on the neck of George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It's because, figuratively speaking, proverbially speaking, black folks have felt like folks had their knee on our necks since the day we were born. And I don't put it past the McNairs at all to try to display that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it did happen, I damn sure would not be surprised. And that is why I am not worried.
Well, I'm gonna help your argument out here, Stephen.
Sure,
you must have had an epiphany when you were having your wisdom teeth pulled. So let me just add to that point for a second. I think a very good example of what you're talking about, happened recently on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, the Rooney Rule is so named for Rooney, for the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And yet the power dynamic, because here we're talking about labor issues overlapping with racial issues, because none of the owners are African American. 70+% of the players are, right? Yep. So there's always that overlap. But strictly as a labor issue, Le'Veon Bell said he wanted a new contract. Steelers wouldn't give it to him. He was willing to sit out a whole season to get to free agency. Now, the Steelers were willing to, they obviously wanted him to play. They made themselves clear they wanted him to play, but they weren't willing to cave to his demands and missed him for the entire season. And Stephen A., Connor did well. He didn't do as well as Le'Veon Bell would have done. And they were really fighting for a Super Bowl that year. Maybe Le'Veon makes a difference. Certainly he makes them better. They were willing to cut off their nose to spite their face. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Rooneys, not Cal McNair and the Texans, very different there. But even the Steelers were willing to do it, and the question becomes, is it a league-wide thing, if not a mandate, where you can't buckle to player pressure that way because you got to keep people in line and let them know who's boss? If that is the dynamic at work, then yes, Deshaun Watson should be worried. I'll just say he has enormous leverage here because not only of the fortunes of a team's that he can change because he's so great, also because of the huge package he could fetch the Texans.
All right, I'll leave you with this. Deshaun Watson accounted for 83% of the Texans' offense. That's the highest percentage in NFL history. We'll have much more on this story as it continues to develop, but when we come back here on First Take, fellas, Steph Curry says he sees a lot of himself in Patrick Mahomes. We'll find out why Steph is not the best NBA comparison to Showtime. And who's the key player to the Nets' success this season? You're about to find out why it's none of Brooklyn's big three. First Take, just getting started. Stay with us.
Indeed presents